Well, it's been a good couple of days. This side, the side that the gaps were actually pretty good. The doors were, that door was a lot of work, but I'd had it pretty straight, because I had to section it together. This door had a significant bubble where I put the new apron on the bottom. All these doors got new door bottoms. But it had a crown in this area, so I did pick up a disc, a shrinking disc, and I hit the door and started tapping out the seam to get these two lined up. In this process, I have, I will put stops in, but a 1/4 inch rubber there and a 1/4 inch rubber there. It's just frictioned onto there. So if I open this door, they're still hanging there, trying to hang there. But on this project, I'm going to step back here. I did that side, and we saw those videos. I started with the center post here and got him finished. And the reason why, I went out in a different sequence there where I started with the front gap and all that, gap the doors. But you learn as you go. And on this side then, I'm going to step back there. On this side, I chose to, said to myself, hey, if I establish the center gaps and then work the end gaps, I can basically finish all this out. So as you dolly out the door gap, you find that you're starting to close it depending on how the kind of damage and where the gap is at. You need to go in or you need to come out to get those doors to line up. As I dollied those all down, then I noticed on the other side that when I was finishing, I had to just clean up a couple of edges, because when I dollied that gap out in that case, it closed the gap. The gap got smaller. So, and it's minuscule and it's maybe overkill, but the thing at the end of the day is it's not, if you want it to look, a certain way. So I dollied the gaps out here, and I sat and pulled that metal all over the place, and it really, it cleans it up really good, and was able to reestablish, shrink that bubble, and it was getting high. It was basically out to somewhere in this neighborhood, and it was all just concentrated down in this corner. So as I started on that corner and just worked my way out until I could run my straight edge down the door, right, and not have any gap. This is all just paint. There's no material, no filler underneath this. And in my book, when I come to skim coating the car and all that kind of thing, there probably will be a little bit of filler there, or at least some sanding primer, but so be it. To me, that's perfect. I got a low spot there. I worked this seam was well into the door, and I shrunk a little bit. You can see some of the signature on shrinking just a little bit, and I dollied on in this area to pull that out, and now I can show you that came out just dandy. So I'm happy with it. It's a 1930, and there's a lot of there were a lot of wounds in this car, but this side definitely, these doors are definitely in better shape than those doors were. But now I'm going to go to work on. I'll get these jams done, everything on the center, and then I'm going to get the gaps cleaned up. So we're plugging away, guys. Okay, so now was going to grab a straight edge before I started, but then the video just, bloop. So basically what I'm doing is I'm getting this edge gap taken care of. And so we can see we got a pretty good gap. And then you can see, right, well, I marked it with a magic marker. This guy is going nice and straight down. The door follows down. On the other side, if I hold the straight edge on, it, you can see that I start to develop. Let me get this. Let me get a different straight edge, or take this out of here. Thing is, you need a little bit of flexibility. So on this side, we go nice and straight down. Okay, we're following up the door just fine. On this side, we can see that we start to gap. If I get straight on it a little bit there. And the same thing occurred on this side. You see the marker, and it started to drift up. When I got on this side of the car, this body line straight, just kind of, you can see that little bit of taper in there. When I got a straight edge underneath the sides and lined up that band, the bottoms of the door lined up. As it turns out, probably resulting in the chop. Could have been, from manufacturing, but more than likely from the chop. This was higher by, it was less than an eighth, but it was higher. It was more than a 16th, so whatever that is, 3/32. And you can see some of my weld signatures I started grinding here. So I had to take this door top down. And of course it splits the seam on the metal that's rolled around it. And then I just very carefully, where it flushed out to the original door, I very carefully about in, where's my heat signature? About in right here, I was welding all the way down because I removed almost no material here. It was just where I skated to come across. And then I built up right here. This is going to just be fiber reinforced. Just the same thing I did on the other side. Here, this gap opened up to about 1/4 of an inch from 3/16. This is following at 3/16 quite well. I have my gauge. I don't know where right here. So this is following that 3/16 door gap quite well. And then now of course it follows it all the way up. Now what I did, and this isn't possible on most cars, but on mine, you can see there and there, because I, excuse me, I did that hidden hinge thing. I've got a pivot hinge at the top, those two bolts. The hidden hinge here in the same arrangement on the front. Okay? And so, as a result of that, I could get inside and unscrew, or loosen, if you will, those. I laid in a piece of 3/16 bar stock all the way down the door. It was a 2-foot piece. And I laid it in there. I loosened those up, and I progressively moved the door back until I got the straightest seam I could get across the greatest width. And then I came up and did that. I still have that to do. You can see it pretty pronounced now where it's kicking back. It's not a lot. I just run over it one time, clean it up and run over it one time with the MIG and grind it and finish it off. So there's where I'm at today. All right, folks. Got that spread, ground and spread. Took the time today to straighten that out. I just had to lay a bead 2 times on there and then shave it down, so I got that door gap. Then I went in and so that flattened this all out, this all flattened out, but when I got to right into this area right here, this gap seemed to grow as the straight edge kicked back a little bit. So I focused on this, and that pulled in, and then I had just one spot down here, the area that I never did, but when I feel this now, she feels really good. But I just took this down a little bit, just bringing all that metal, shrinking it to bring it in just a little bit, and it worked out very, very nicely. I'm happy with it. So at this point now, I'm going to block out that fiber reinforced. I did put some on here too, and a little on there, ground all those out where I had that brace welded on. Because I made just a little bit, but there isn't any thickness, so I made a dollop. You can maybe see about right there, just a little bit, but that's good. I guess that's good news. Most of it will be on the ground, but I just kind of consumed it up as I was going, so. In little areas that I'll block out. It's kind of dumb because then you still got to go back and do it anyway because there's not enough, you know. But anyway, no rambling today. That's where I got. Then I'll do the inside of the jams on the center post, inside of the door jams, and then move. Or more than likely I'll go here. I've been looking at this side more than anything else. This isn't going to be. This was actually extremely efficient on the other side, so I'll get that done next probably. Doesn't look like a whole hell of a lot, does it? There's a lot of work that went into that side, and some may be wondering what I'm doing with all this fiber fill. I don't know. You know, if you haven't had a lot of experience with this, basically I'm trying to establish the floor, right? The base for which to do all the blocking on with regular Evercoat Gold. And so I now have my door gaps established on this side of the vehicle. The doors are aligned. It's bolted to the frame's sitting on the floor. I mean, technically probably should be sitting on the wheels, but it's all bolted tight and where it's going to be, I guess, lined up and bolted tight. So I'm establishing with the fiber fill my door gaps and the base, what I sand to. Fiber fill sands like, I don't know, sanding aluminum almost, you know, not metal, not steel, but like aluminum. And so on this side, I've been talking a lot about what in the few prior videos about, you know, where I hit that with the shrinking disc and pulled that metal in and got that back into shape, better shape. I wound up sanding a lot of material out of the other side of this door. I mean, I had some fill on this side because there was damage here that I tapped out, and so I was able to sand most of that out. It's got a glaze coat on it from just reestablishing this. If you remember back, 40 some videos, this was all separated. This whole body, there was a little shred of this cowl holding the whole side of this body wrapped around to the back and ended in about that rear sail panel on where it joined at the floor. And so I had to find the location of everything, cross measure, do all that stuff to wind up building this back in. And so now as I'm putting everything on, I've got, you know, an 1/8 of an inch here and a 1/16 of an inch there, and symmetry is where it is. But basically everything, the door jambs, the frame, everything other than the raw stampings for the body, most of the body, a lot of which I had to make, were here, but the rest wasn't. So what I'm doing is I'm reestablishing those body lines, and in this case the door gap. So I am now completed with the center post. I just completed in the sense that it's ready to start. You know, if this were metal worked completely out and everything, you know, this metal working a tube, it would be a little difficult, but not that you couldn't do it. But I'm at that point where I'm going to have the body, trying to get the body to a place where I can start blocking it out. That's the journey. Not that I'm going to start blocking it out with to finish as soon as I get done, because there's many other things to do before this ever needs to be painted. But right now I'm just trying to establish that basic body. So, and we know we chopped it, and we chopped it right, yeah, there's just starting to poke on the areas where it was chopped. It was chopped 3 inches down, and as you know, you may not know, if you can, this tapers. My camera doesn't do it justice. I hope it does in the video, but this is the narrowest point, and then it widens out coming down. So as I dropped that 3 inches, I was a fraction of an inch. I had to choose the inside or the outside. In this case, I chose the inside for virtually everything. This was the only straight piece, other than this tube here, which is the original jam piece welded to square tubing. And there was a step in there. So all of that basically is fiber fill. No door edges on this car are built up. No door edges. That's too thin a material to build up. So basically I dollied all the door edges out and then filled it with fiber fill to straighten out the weld, the imperfections in the door, where I welded it back together, and minor damage, that kind of stuff. And so I'm left with this to do after I hang this door, but I wanted to show you, I mean, virtually every piece I'm getting in and reconstructing, and just basically blocking it down with 36, hitting it with some 80, and calling it good. You know, I'll have to disassemble this whole thing again to whatever degree of perfection one wants. In this case, I want to get this car. If I want the areas that you won't even see, this is the hinge side of the door that opens out. You know, maybe if you're in the glass there, you'll be able to see the top side of it. But it all depends on how you want to finish it out. So my intentions are to come back and block this all with lightweight filler on every show surface. I'm not going to, you know, clean up any, these are in good shape, but I'm not going to go in here and find imperfections where they're covered with upholstery or door panels. But certainly any area that is painted and shows, I'm going to do my best to do the best possible finish. But the fiber fill stays there. It's an extremely hard material, so when you're blocking and you block to it, like when you block to metal, it is considered the high spot. And that's what I'm trying to establish by going around and doing all this. So at this juncture, this is where I'm at. Give you kind of a picture of it. Should be able to get this jam completed, get these posts, interior door jam, body jam, and this post completed. I did, as I was working, finish out the extensions that I put on here on both sides. Those are now finished out, and we are making some progress. I got all those plugged and fiber fill. I got to finish blocking these, but these all blocked out, and they'll look beautiful when they're done. So very happy with the progress that I've made so far, and we're just going to keep plugging away, guys, gals. Well, sorry about the background noise. I'll get that shut off. Got a TV going on in here. There we go. Yeah. Guys got to pass the time somehow. But we did it. We did it. Now you can see where I'm scratching the door on this side and down there. I dollied all that out. You can see, you know, I'm just starting to hit the material here, just starting to hit back here. But this is going to be a very, 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 that's the area that I welded the bottom on. But it's right there, you can see. There's just a little edge. And I can dolly that a little bit more. A little bit more. It's got about a 1/16 of an inch. So I'll get that dollied. Everything else, really, you know, there's some shadow here, but obviously I've got material here that I can sand and block that so that I'm just at the edge of the metal. So this is, I got just a little build on here. I probably will just work on dollying that whole bottom out a little bit more. But, wow. I am so happy. That was a major undertaking for me. But we got her. We got her. And she does look good. She does look good. Very, very happy with it. Alignment is just spot on all the way down. So now the big project is taking a piece of pipe. It's just 16th wall, 1 inch diameter. She'll pop out to 1 1/16, 1 1/8. Once I split it, and then he gets welded on down here, so I got to trim my excess material off all the way. You know, I follow the body pretty good here. Grind it all down and weld that half round on. It continues on. This is roughly 3/4 of an inch, that bead, and then it widens out to 1 inch. From the factory. You know, I'm not doing the factory, but I mean, it'll probably be 1 1/8. I'm going to close out because the door bottoms are the same, but the gap gets bigger right here. You can see a little woohoo, little wow right in this area. So when that pipe goes on, it'll be shimmed right underneath the edges of the door, welded on, and then I'll have to reconstruct. We got an edge on the door, a shelf, and this is where I was going to make the sill plate. Will drop in and cover this area, cover the carpet, and then come in here to finish off the jamb for the bottom door seal. It'll be integrated into the sill plate. But after I get that piece on, I'll probably have to come in here and put another piece in here to level that off. Flush it out. Don't know for sure yet. It all depends on how the sill plate winds up. I wind up making and forming that. But at this point, we got two sides with very nice gaps, and that to me is a relief. Hey guys, just a quick little one. So I got the gaps done, and I've opted to go on. I ground out. This is where I welded the door bottoms together, and then I cleaned out the, cleaned out the, we've got a little low right here. You can kind of see the ring when I rub my dirty hands over it. So I'll tap on that. I tapped on this door for about number 3 hours, I suppose. And you can see from this material here, up in here, I'm not finished sanding, but I'm starting to expose the edge on that side. I have to finish blocking this out. That's the weld line, and all this is high. I have to finish all of that. But gotta go to work. But we can start to see the metal being exposed here. Now this will have to get, you know, I'll probably put it back into epoxy, and then just let it set while I'm working on other things again. But now with all the doors gapped, everything lined up, I just want to make sure that I'm addressing everything. I don't know. Oh, I know why I ground all that weld out, because when I shrunk that panel, there was a lot of movement in material. And as I started blocking that, I thought, I just got to bring it up from the apron all the way up. So the other side was that door had the most work, and who knows what happens when I get back to that side. But I have to finish this shape here out so that I can put on the half round, cut that off, and put that bead along that lower edge. So that's what I'm working on right now. Hey guys, one of the things, well, let's back up. So I got this door blocked out, this door blocked out. You can see some, you know, shadows on this one and up in here, and that is just barely below the surface. You know, I'm hitting them, I'm scratching them, but I'm touching metal. You know, I'm touching metal here and here, so I don't want to continue focusing on there. All the way around here, you know. So at this point, the doors are pretty flat. I could come in and dress these areas, but there's no depth there. I'm just, you know, I'm hitting both sides, and I'm just barely below. So that's, in my estimation, I'm done with the fiber fill. The welds are sealed. I probably didn't need to get all up in here, but I wanted to get the basic shape done, and I wanted to create the floor. So at this point now, I've got my shape. Got the shape of the bottom of the doors, and I want to begin welding, cutting off the excess material and welding on the half round. But what's important is that a couple of things, you know, stepping back just a little bit, putting those doors on needs the alignment, you know, and we've done all that. We've done all the alignment for the gaps. We've done the alignment for the surface, and we've talked a little bit about you know, the bump stops, or what I'm using to hold them out on the top and on the bottom. So now what I want to do is permanently locate that, because, you know, each time I pull those out and put them in, you know, there's minor variation, right? I could put it here, I could put it down here, I could put it up here. And you've probably seen that if you've paid attention to that over the course of the videos. So now I want to get the doors in a fixed position. We know that when we're doing this, you know, where is that position? You can finish an entire car out by just simply moving the door powell all the way in, tightening the door to the powell, and calling her good. But we got to have a seal surface. So we know from earlier videos that I've been basically taking the seal and moving them around in various locations to make sure that I don't have any problems with shutting the door. And I've done that experiment, and I don't know if I did, how much of that I did on a camera, but I know I've mentioned it. So at this point now, I've got the half round tube here, and the other piece is here. That's going to wind up being the bead. I just basically clamped a piece of angle iron in several spots all the way down this thing, marking the top or marking the halfway point. The old paper method: wrap a piece of paper around it, mark one line, take the paper off, or mark both halves of the piece of paper. You know, as it wraps around, mark it on both sides. Put those two lines together, crease it. You found the halfway point. Okay. If I haven't explained that, I can maybe do a demonstration later. Just let me know. I put my angle iron on here. I use the pipe. This is EMT or EWT pipe. It's electrowelded, so that line is typically straight on down in the manufacturing process. So I use that to line up the angle iron. Clamped it about 5 spots all the way down this 6-foot length, and then scored it. Scored it about halfway through. Did the other side, scored it about halfway through, and then I just cut it in between the clamped areas with the score on both sides. And then I could just basically, on those 5 spots, zip it off on each side. And it turned out very good. Very good. I mean, there's some bend in the pipe, but the line is very, very nice and straight. Certainly for weld on. So now that's going to go across this bottom piece here. And that's going to come on and basically create the half round. Okay, there you go. Create the half round look. It'll be formed around this corner, around that corner. When I originally built this space frame, I got as close as I could get, but you're bending 3-inch wide diameter tubing and with pie cuts and everything else. So I resolved to leaving it and then just trimming it. You know, I wanted to be right there, but I wasn't. So I'll have to trim that along the edge. I follow the door on each side quite well. And I'll, of course, match the 2 sides. So I follow the door quite well. And I have the same condition here and here. So now it's time to weld those on. Jumping back, if I'm going to weld those on, I want a very precise door closure, and I want it to be the same every time. So I wanted to get some 1/4-inch spacers, or thereabouts, right? Because I can move them up and down. The gap has minor changes because of the curvature of the door. And so what I'm doing is I bonded rubber to a piece of 18 gauge, and I use this. I've used it in the past, and it seems to work very well. If it fails, it fails, and I'll go to a different method. These aren't that hard to construct. But basically cut a square out, got them all exactly the same, put a hole in it, got a number 10 screw, 1032 fine thread, ran him in and punched a hole in the rubber so that the head of the screw can bury into it. Now the head of the screw will be in the gap of the door, and then these will sit in the frame like that. Basically like that. They'll get trimmed. I'm going to trim them. The rubber was bigger in every case. You know, I just put a hole in the rubber as close to center as I could get. And now I'll trim them back and get them looking professional and wet sand them and make them look like an actual a doorstop. I looked all over online for something like this. You can do the adhesive stops and you know, there's a round is very popular in the furniture and hardware industry, but here I can get these looking like exactly like factory looking doorstop. So that's what I'm working on now, and I'll try to get those finished up. Okay, basically a little demonstration. So all these pieces, I basically just took a utility knife and I cut along the edge of the square pieces of the metal piece. you can see that they're okay, but they're not perfect, and I've still got some glue on the top side and that kind of thing. So this is what I'm trying to achieve. Right here, with nice smooth edges and flush with the metal back, and then in this case sanded the metal back. So what I've done, you can see a little bit of glue on there. I still got a little bit of sanding to do on that one, I guess. But I got 80 grit, 240, and 320 just on a wooden board. And you can see from my marks, basically just taking it down until I get it nice. And you can see a little bit of material coming off of there. You can see the high side. And I'll just keep going until I sand it. Until I sand it nice and flat. You see it's a little wide on this end. And I'll just square off all the edges on the 80. Then dress them with a 240. Do a tiny little radius on them. Hit the glue on the bottom side, hit the glue on the top side, and then finish them out with the 320. That's basically my method for getting those bump stops made.